So for the subjects of your book was the link between, these very difficult memories and experiences and the foods that made them happy. Was that such a clear link for all of your subjects?
I think it was a clearer link than I thought it might be. I thought I was going to have to baby step them along a little bit and try to bring them along with my train of thought. And that really wasn't the case. The topic of food for all of them just resonated because, number one, they had happy childhoods, they had good homes, they had holiday traditions. They held on to those memories during the war. Many of them said in large part, it's what got them through those really terrible times, holding on to what was just so sacred and so wonderful in their childhood. Many of them also commented that a way that they could be brought back to the closeness they had with their mothers came from the food they prepared. Almost all of them lost their mothers. I mean, it's an inconceivable thing to realize that they were 5 and 6 and 10 and 12 and they were parentless. So talking about the food made them feel good. It made them feel connected.
And your book is just a great kind of cross-section of the diversity that is Jewish cuisine. And June and I got to talk ahead of time to sort of get to know each other a little bit before speaking in front of you. And she said that the food scholar Gila Marx, who wrote a wonderful encyclopedia of Jewish food, said that Jewish food is food that Jewish people make, and you agree with that.
Well, actually, I'm going to say that he said that matzah is the only true Jewish food.
Oh, sorry, and you said...
And I said, because I don't know if Gil would want to take credit for it,
yes.
But I happen to say that I find that Jewish food is really any food prepared by or for Jewish people. Because if you think about it, what you make in your home for the holiday might be unique to your family, might not be a dish that anybody else has. We have matzah meat cakes at our holiday. I have a Sephardic side of my family. I am sure that none of you have that on your table at the holiday, other than those 3 people that I see sitting out there. But it's become such a part of our family tradition. It's Jewish food. I make it. I'm Jewish. Hence, it's Jewish food. I often say that we have been thrown out of all the best countries in the world. And so our cooking styles really reflect the culinary traditions of so many different cultures that we've either adopted or adapted to our own lifestyle. So Arlette Baker, who is a survivor who's in the book and happens to be sitting right there, and I thank her so much for being here, Arlette makes a wonderful dish that's in the book. It's fish in a little casserole. Well, you would normally consider that a Jewish dish.
I want to make that recipe. I actually marked it in the book.
It's wonderful. She's an amazing cook. And it's unconventional food, but it's Jewish food because she makes it.
So in terms of adapting recipes for the book, first of all, I have to say, I don't know if everyone, sorry for interrupting you, it's just literally that is one book. Recipe, I put a Post-it, make this at home. This is a serious cookbook. It's not only a book of wonderful stories and oral histories. And I give you a lot of credit for that because you took your role as someone interpreting these recipes really seriously. And if you all do get a chance to look at the book, June has a wonderful sort of like methodology that she lays out before she gets into the book of, what she means when she's talking about, different methods of baking and boiling water and, what dishes to use and equipment. And when we spoke, you said that this was very challenging because, everyone knows that if you ask your grandmother or great-grandmother how to make something that you love, she's making forever, she uses maybe like a water glass as a measure, and there's a Yiddish word for that, which I think I would butcher, but in your book you say this is called Shitterine, and that people told you a bissel of this and a bissel of that.
Right, and then I went home and I said, well, I don't know, my measuring spoons don't have one marked a bissel. How do you really measure out a bissel of sugar? I had recipes that called for an eggshell of matzah meal. So I bought a dozen eggs, a dozen large eggs, a dozen jumbo eggs. I cracked dozens of eggs. And I made the recipe measuring with the eggshells until I got it, the consistency. And my family will attest, they tasted and tested all of these dishes to make sure that it really was good food. Because I primarily want to preserve food memory. That's really, aside from the stories, that's really the point of the book, is to take these recipes and ensure they have a legacy. But additionally, I wanted you to be able to cook from this book. I wanted you to be able to open this book and not have to be all thumbs and not present something at your holiday table that you weren't proud of.
Yeah, there are wonderful looking recipes, and it's not only, you know, the challah and the matzo ball soup. There's sour braten and like celeriac salad, which sounds fantastic, and you know, really, a really wonderful range of foods that shows the span of world Jewry. And one quote, I just pulled a few quotes from the book that I thought were so meaningful. A woman named Ruth Cohn, she was allowed to come to the Dominican Republic because their dictator didn't want to kill the Jews. He gave refuge to the Jews. She said it was a strange feeling being able to walk the street without harassment. And the recipes that she gave you were arroz con pollo, which is
and I make it all the time.
You do?
I do.
And the toston,
yes.
The fried plantains.
Fried plantains, I'm going to say I make less often.
Yeah.
I made for the purpose of the book. Not easy to get plantains. A lot of people think they're like bananas. They are, but they're much starchier and they're firmer, and they're really not the same food. You need to get them in a specialty market. But the arroz con pollo, it's a one-dish wonder. It is basic casserole cooking. And you know, I often look at the recipes that are represented in the book, and even with the diversity of them and the breadth of recipes that are there, these cooks were the first organic locavores. Long before we even knew what those words meant. If it grew in the ground and it could last in the cellar, or their neighbor, you know, raised that animal, it was dinner that night. And so I look at these recipes and I just say, this is just wholesome, good, nutritious food. And why shouldn't we be making them? They're not only for the holidays, they're really for every day.
Do you have any other favorites that really emerge as gems?
Yeah, I made today for a friend who had surgery, and I'm looking to see, because I know he's here as well. I made him a chocolate cake that's in the book. It's actually a cake very special to the museum because it was made by Doris Schechter. She's a wonderful baker. She's also a Holocaust survivor, and every year she bakes hundreds of these cakes for a luncheon at the museum. And it's really lovely. It's a fabulous recipe. It's a decadent chocolate cake with a chocolate pudding filling.
Is it a blackout?
It is, and a tip she taught me and something I learned is she glazes it with an orange syrup because the syrup helps preserve the moistness of the cake and keeps it from spoiling faster. So it's just a nice little tip, and it's easy to make, and we talk about it in the book. I make the lentil soup from this book all the time. It's hearty, it's nutritious, it's cheap, it's fast. Cheap and fast, it's a good combination sometimes.
Is it Greek, from one of your Greek
recipes? It is.
It's
one of my Greek survivors, and she made it with a kosher sausage because the book is strictly kosher. I sometimes put Hebrew national hot dogs in it. What could be bad?
I grew up eating hot dogs and soup.
Oh,
it's
great.
Delicious.
And she finishes it with a little drizzle of balsamic vinegar, which is really the zing that a lot of Greeks give to their foods. It really wakes up the flavor.
So in addition to testing these recipes and being able to experience them, did you find that it even helped you inhabit further the world of the people who gave these recipes to you?
It did, and I think I brought anyone who came to especially my holiday table, on that journey as well. And we always told the stories. And we would serve a dish, and I would serve the sponge cake, or Ruth's blueberry tart, or Lily Margulies' chicken and prune simmis, and we would recall and we would tell the story, and I'll be honest, my son-in-law would tear up every time. It could be the same story that he's heard 6 times, and I'd say, for goodness sakes, Dan, you've heard this story 6 times. And he says, I can't help it. Listen to what this woman endured. So we would tell the story, and we would serve that food, and it was a way of truly honoring the survivor who contributed the recipe, and really having their stories and the experiences become a part of our lives.